So loud. Hello and welcome to the first edition of Frequently Asked Questions Friday. That's what I've been told I have to call it. So it's not Fact Friday, it's Frequently Asked Questions Friday. And if you're not familiar, this is the first episode, and I had this idea. I wanted to interact with my audience. I'm not really sure if I'm ready to jump into the live forum yet. I want to build up more of a fan base before I jump into live, because I don't want to talk to two people. No offense to the two people that would watch it. I love you to death. But I don't want to talk to two people on live and just get continuous questions from them. I want a good amount of people. I want people to enjoy it. I want to interact with people that have questions, people that are fans of the podcast, people that are fans of PWX, people that are fans of professional wrestling. So the way this show works is I put out a hashtag FAQFriday. You can use it at any point in time to submit a question to me. I only have 3 that I'm going to do since this is the first deal, and I'm on borrowed time here in the Cabarrus Brewing's conference room. So, yes, you're not missing anything. That is a TV that I do not have on. That's called not having enough time to prepare. The way I work is I think of an idea. I can't play with the idea for a little bit and sit on it for a little bit until it grows unless I just don't have the technology or the funds to do it. Luckily, this doesn't cost me anything. Cabarrus Brewing is amazing, and they're one of our premier sponsors on the podcast, the Tuesday Special podcast, and they're allowing me to film this here. So I promise you, it's not going to go unnoticed. The TV's not working, but guess what? Next week, the damn TV's going to work, okay? You have my word, you have my promise. So, as I was saying, the way this works is you use hashtag FAQFriday. You can do it on Facebook, you can do it on Twitter, you can do it on, I guess, on Instagram. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, do it, and I'll just look it up, and I'll answer a question. And I had about 5 or 8 questions submitted. I picked 3 because I don't want to do. I want still trying to figure out the time balance here. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do this, and if I want to answer 3 questions, if I want to answer 5 questions. I'm going to be at the beach next week, so I might just do it live and try it at the beach. I don't know. I might film it on the beach. So the audio might not be professional like it is now. The setting might not be as good, but it'll be better for me because I'll be on the beach taking in the sand, taking in the sun rays, not the sand. I don't want to take in sand. Taking in the sun rays and having fun. But before we jump in, I have to give credit to my sponsors. First off, Cabarrus Brewing Company, beautiful building, beautiful facility, a beautiful conference room that they allow me to film this in and record this in. CabarrusBrewing.com, 329 McGill Avenue, Concord, North Carolina. Check them out. If you're not in the Concord area, check them out online. Support them on Facebook, Cabarrus Brewing Company on Facebook. Second is Threadforge Apparel. This is the double. Threadforge Apparel. I just talked to Brad, back up and running, ready to go. Let's have some fun. Let's order some T-shirts. If you're a wrestler, if you're a podcaster, if you're just somebody that thinks they can design T-shirts, and you can, order them from Threadforge Apparel. Brad's a cool dude. He prints amazing shirts. And, yeah, I can't say anything bad about him. He's a nice guy. He really is. And it's an awesome company. So Threadforge Apparel on Facebook and Threadforge, THREADFORGE.co on the internet, where you can get prices, submit quotes, or get quotes for an order, and all that good stuff. See some of their work, and you can see some of their work right now. Because third sponsor and Threadforge Apparel hooked me up with this. I have the first 1820 art shirt. Yes, the first one ever created. The first 1820 art shirt. If you don't believe me, you can see the tag. It says 1820 Apparel. For everyone. That's right. Go to wear1820.com and check them out. Hey, there's only a few good independent clothing brands, and I can't tell you that this one's going to be great. I can't tell you that this one's going to be amazing. I can just tell you that this is an up-and-coming, a brand new up-and-coming clothing line that needs support. So go support them. They're still working on all their, from what I've been told, they're still working on all of their social media stuff. They unveiled the shirts quickly so they could do the Team Shasta Soldier shirts. If you want to know any more about that, I don't have time to get all into it on this because I'm trying to keep it short. But if you go to WAR1820.com, there's on the menu at the top right of the screen, you'll see Shasta Soldiers. Click on that. It tells you everything about Shasta and her journey and her fight that she's in, and you can support it. So if you like the shirt, go buy it. $19.99. I might have a discount code for you on the next Tuesday special podcast. I don't know. Let me talk to them. Let me try to pull some strings since I'm the first podcast they sponsored, and we'll see how it goes. But that's enough of an intro. There's people talking out here. There's yoga going on upstairs. Everything's loud, but I hope you can hear me. Now, let's get to the frequently asked questions. Let's have some fun. Question numero uno. That's right. Question numero uno comes to us from Stephanie. Cheers, Stephanie. Thank you. H2O. How did you get into professional wrestling? Well, this is a long story, and I don't know. I guess we have enough time. I was a professional wrestling fan all through high school. Some in middle school, mostly started in middle school. I'm one of those rare people that can't remember when they became a wrestling fan. I just know I remember the first event I ever went to was at the Auditorium, Bojangles Coliseum, which used to be Independence Arena. It was the NWA. Might have been WCW. It was right in the transition from NWA to WCW. I remember Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes. Those are the two that I remember from it. I don't remember Flair for some reason. I do remember Dusty and Dustin, and we sat way far back, but I was hooked. I loved it. I didn't get into I followed a lot of WCW. Was not really familiar with early WWE, like when the Raw started. I knew about it, but WCW was my ish, and then I liked WCW. And fast forward to when I was a senior in high school. I got hooked up with this local promoter that really had no pull at all, but I was young and he just had somewhere to wrestle. And me and one of my best friends in life, which I need to have him on the podcast, and I will, Matt Crosby, started training together. This is circa 2001-ish, and I never formally trained until we went to a gentleman named Jeff Justice in independent wrestling. The Carolinas Independent Wrestling from 2003-ish. It was him, Lodi, a guy named Patrick. I can't say his last name. He does Martinez. You heard me and Tyshawn just talked about him on the last episode of Tuesday Special. But I got an episode coming up with Kevin Jordan, and me and him talk about him a lot because Patrick had a big part, and Mike Bakikio, the owner of High Spots, and that was my relationship with High Spots. And through that, I got to work for NWA Mid-Atlantic because Jeff was a good friend. All of them were good friends with Ricky Nelson. And I just continued to wrestle. And I never traveled a lot just because that was before. I mean, people traveled, but not like now. Like, you couldn't get out there as much. You just find local shows, wrestled. Did pretty good. Worked some in CWA. Yeah, with Ty, and then started a company called Pro Wrestling Evo, and did Evo for 3 years. I thought it was successful for what it was. It was a company that showcased local talent that had a high scale of production, and successfully ran that till I was tired of losing money, and then I joined forces with PWX, and I've been with PWX ever since. I don't know if that's entertaining, but yeah, I mean, I did the traditional, get trained for about 6 months in a warehouse that's 100 degrees in a 20-foot by 20-foot old NWA ring that hurt so bad when you took bumps. And but that was not realizing it at the time. That was a key component to success and not worrying about rings when we moved to different companies. It's not like now where all the rings are made super high quality from High Spots and bump good and have good bumping pad. I remember a story when me and Zach Salvation and Brandon and Rowdy James went to, I think it was Knoxville, Tennessee. I remember Bullet Bob Armstrong was there. I don't know who else. We got there 10 minutes before our match was supposed to go on. We were in a triple threat match against each other. We threw our gear on, ran out, started wrestling. I had a decent moonsault at the time, so I called a moonsault, but Rowdy was supposed to move. Rowdy did move, and I landed, and I felt a shock go through my hip. And when the shock went through my hip, I couldn't feel my leg. Rolled out of the ring and looked, and I realized there was no bumping pad on this ring. It was just wood. Good times. Such good times. That's the wrestling that I grew up in. And I'm not ashamed. I loved it. I think going through all of that built my mind to where it is now and able to help a company like PWX as much as I can. But yeah, hopefully that answered your question. Hopefully that answered your question, Stephanie. And I appreciate you sending the question in. Hopefully more people will. On to round 2. All right, round 2. This comes from Luke in Saskatchewan, Michigan. I don't know. They just have names. I need to write down the towns, like city and towns, if they give it to me, because that's fun. That makes it super fun. Of Luke from like Milwaukee, Wisconsin says, Patrick, what made you start a podcast? That's an interesting question. I've never thought about that. I remember when podcasts got big. I'm trying to remember the first podcast I ever listened to. I'm not sure. I was never big on talk radio. And, I can't really remember what podcast got me into podcasting. I think I was researching or looking around online because I'm a computer nerd. And I found a website that was talking about podcasting, and then I found out that you can use Rock Band microphones for microphones on MacBooks. And this is when I had the straight up my first ever white MacBook that Nick Clemency sold me for $500. And if you listen to not referencing again the Tyshawn Williams episode of Tuesday Special at TuesdaySpecial.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, the last one we released with Tyshawn, we talk about he was part of that first podcast I ever recorded. I take that back. There is a lost podcast. This is a funny story. There's a lost podcast out there that I might have talked about on my current podcast, but me and my friends decided this was the test with the Rock Band microphones, and they worked, and we used GarageBand. But we also had the idea of going to get the tall Four Locos. This is before they changed the whatever the ingredients were, and every time you stuttered or made a mishap or messed up your words, you had to take a shot of Four Loko. Needless to say, that ended with me on the floor with the microphone, and the last 20 minutes of that podcast is me gurgling into the microphone. So what made me want to start a podcast? I can answer that for the Tuesday Special podcast, the current podcast I'm on, because I've had a few. And I stated it, if you ever listen to the initial episodes of Tuesday Special, is I was tired of doing a bunch of stuff for other people. And no offense to those people that I do stuff for. I love that I'm able to help your company. I love that I'm able to create for you. But I was tired of doing stuff for other people, and I want to do something for me. And like radio broadcasting or like audio broadcasting, I should say. It's fun to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because it's new. I don't know if it just touches a nerve that I think I'm still trying to get better at, which I'm trying to get better at everything. But I'm good at video editing. I'm good at graphics. I don't know that I'm good at audio. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to mix out. I'm trying to learn how to mix and master music. So audio is like a peak interest of mine. And yeah, so I thought about it. I came up with the concept of Tuesday Special. I love podcasts like Joe Rogan's Experience, WTF podcast, little things. I mean, of course, all the most famous podcasts there are. But I also like True Crime Garage is one of my favorite podcasts. Disgraceland is amazing. So if you've never heard of Disgraceland, I beg you to go listen to that if you like listening to the dark stories of musicians. But yeah, I wanted to do something for me, and that's what I love about this podcast. That's what I love about getting feedback from the Tuesday Special podcast, is because it's all me. I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to go through a creative team. I don't have to do anything. I just record the episode that I want to record with the conversation that I want to have with guests that I want to use or that I want to invite on. And it's raw. It's me, and there's no teams behind it. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about podcasting. And I encourage anybody that wants to start a podcast. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't do it for the listeners. I love the listeners. I love the feedback. That makes it so much worth it. That's like icing on top. I do it for the creative outlet and the amazing conversations I have throughout season 1 and now into season 2. But yeah, so thank you, Luke, for that question. And if you want to start a podcast, if you got a podcast, shoot me a message. I'd love to listen to it. I love podcasts. That's what gets me through on the road. All right, drum roll. That's the most horrible drum roll, face of the earth. But we're still here, still doing it. Last but not least, this is an interesting question. No name. You were afraid to leave your name on this question. No name. Ask, did you watch AEW Double or Nothing? If so, what did you think? Yes and yes. Yes, I did watch it. I watched it live. And like going into AEW, like moving, even though it's not on the scale that AEW is, I've been promoting wrestling, like building, like just working for a wrestling company for upwards of 10 years now. And the scariest thing about that entire pay-per-view from my perspective of a fan and working in the wrestling business was the expectation. They had created so much expectation that they had to live up to, and some people thrive off that. Some people it ruins them. So like I looked at it, and I'll just tell you how I looked at it. I don't know if this is going to answer your question. I thought it was a great pay-per-view. I thought it was a great show. I thought it was a great introduction to the wrestling world. I think like sky's the limit for them. I sent Adam Page a text the other day, or actually today. I said, "Hey man, I know you had a busy weekend. I know it's been crazy, but everything Sunday looked awesome, and it's like." Sorry, technical difficulties. But as I was saying before my phone went out, there was so much expectation going into that, and there was 3 things that I was judging that show by. I know I've worked with almost all that talent, and on some level or another, whether it be WrestleCon, whether it be PWX, and I know that the talent quality is there. So I didn't worry about the talent quality. The 3 things that I worried about, and we'll close with this, is number 1 was the production value. Is the worst part about professional wrestling from somebody that works in the business is WWE has been so dominant for so long that production value is WWE standard. So if you're not able to give that style of production value, then you're second place. And you can make the argument that people always make that WWE is always going to be first place. They're global. They're so big that you can't take down the monster. I understand that, but you can establish yourself as a competitor, as AEW did, by production value. But that's a big piece of it. And I think they knocked the ball out of the park. I thought it looked just like WWE. It may be even better than WWE. Didn't have any of the crappy cutbacks to the backstage. Everything looked professionally done. I love the layout. I love the entranceway. I love the lighting. I love the crowd lighting. Like everything was on point. That's that was my main concern, because you heard about all the signings. You heard about Tony Khan was going to do his deal of like timing the show, but you never heard if it was going to be Keith Mitchell that live produced it. What production company are they using? What company they used to set up the arena? Like, you didn't hear any of that. The only thing I knew was who provided the ring and the skirts and the turnbuckle pads, and that was High Spots. Shout out to High Spots. But yeah, that's a big concern, and they knocked the ball out of the park. Second thing was what was the second thing? The time. Sorry, the time. As I said, Tony Khan was doing this for the first time, and kudos. It was timed out perfect. I think the fact that they So I know I've heard there was some issues with the buy-in, the free pre-show, and all of that. I don't know anything about that. I think that's minute. I think it played on TNT's YouTube and not on the All Elite Wrestling YouTube or being the Elite YouTube. That happens. It is a misunderstanding from presentation, but like from the start of the show to the end where they went out on Dean Ambrose on top of the poker chips or the casino chips. Yeah, dude, it was timed out perfect. And I don't know if they made adjustments. I don't know if matches went long and if he had to control that. But, hey, kudos. Respect. I know how hard that is, especially in, we live, the company I work for lives in a pay-per-view environment to where sometimes we have padded time. So if we go over a little bit, it's not as much of an issue. But they don't. When you pay for pay-per-view time, they don't. And that was super impressive. And like I said, like kudos to Tony Khan, who, from what all of the talent have said, timed that show out. And third would independent wrestling translate well on a big stage like pay-per-view from Caesar's Palace? I think it did. I feel like there was a few parts of the pre-show that I don't need to call it matches. A few parts of the pre-show, the Rumble and the singles match, that kind of got lost in the indie world. And people might fuss at me for saying that, but if you're appealing to a worldwide audience, you have to give them a product that they can understand, and that you can't base your entire product on a niche independent market. You have to make it available to the common fan, the WWE fan, the sponsors that could potentially be buying into your company, like they do WWE. Like I said in the initial statement, the WWE is the gold standard to the common wrestling fan and to sponsors. So you have to tread that line. Very, very closely, and you don't want to overstep either side because you might lose people. You might lose sponsors. I thought they did a very good job for the main show of doing that. I think they had a good mix of like crazy indie spots and like TV spots, for lack of a better term. The last thing I'll say, because we're getting a little long-winded with this, last thing I'll say is one of the best presentations, matches, layouts, and execution I have ever seen in professional wrestling was Cody Rhodes versus Dustin. From the match to the bleeding to the end to the promo afterwards, there's a video online that like goes back between Dusty Rhodes and Dustin from WCW, and then the Cody Rhodes and Dustin promo, and they're very similar. And the fact that they put that much time and effort and thought into that, and that probably swung over so many people's heads, and it would have swung over my head if I wouldn't have seen this video online. So go out there and check it out. And I think the sky's the limit for AEW as long as they keep their head down, keep the grind, and be smart. That's all. I mean, the next step is how's their TV going to do? And I just listened to the Dean Ambrose Chris Jericho podcast, and one of the last things they say is there's a lot of talent there that has never worked TV. So that's the next question for me. I think that the Fight Fest is going to be amazing. I think that All Out's going to be amazing. I think they got their process for pay-per-view to be successful there, and they will be successful, no doubt in my mind. But yeah, so with that said, thank you guys for the questions. Remember to keep throwing them in. Hashtag FAQFriday, Fact Friday. That probably got beeped out as always. But so keep throwing them in. I'm going to do this every Friday. And I mean, if we start getting a lot of views, if it starts getting some momentum, I might start doing them live. I don't know. That's the game plan for the future. But needless to say, this was fun. Thank you for the questions again. I got to go work. Check out TuesdaySpecial.com for all the latest Tuesday Special podcasts. Check out all of our sponsors. And I guess thank you for watching. Cheers.